Most people don't fear failure. They fear what failure exposes. The moment something collapses, a relationship, a career path, an identity they invested years into, they don't feel pain first. They feel naked, because failure is not an event. It is a revelation, and revelations are dangerous to those who built their lives on illusion. This is not about resilience. Resilience still wants to survive intact. This is about something colder, more decisive, the anti-fragile ego. You already know the feeling. Something you believed in no longer responds. Effort produces no return. The old strategies fail quietly at first, then publicly. You feel the internal crack before anyone else notices. Sleep becomes shallow. Your attention fragments. Your mind loops between anger and self-contempt. You are not depressed. You are disoriented, because the identity you are operating from no longer works. And what suffocates you is not the failure itself, but the reflex to defend a version of yourself that is already dead. Here is the truth. You were taught that a healthy ego is stable, confident, protected from collapse. That failure is something to recover from quickly, to explain away, to reframe positively. That belief was never for your benefit. It was installed because predictable people are useful people. People who fear failure cling to roles. They obey incentives. They negotiate against themselves to remain acceptable. Society does not reward growth. It rewards continuity. Consistency is the virtue of the stagnant. We are told the reliable person never wavers. But in a shifting reality, consistency is just another word for rigor mortis. When you refuse to fail, you are choosing to decay slowly rather than transform violently. An ego that cannot fracture is easy to control because it will avoid truth. If truth threatens identity, your reactions were trained. You learn to interpret failure as evidence of personal inadequacy. So you either collapse inward or become performative outward. You apologize too much. You explain yourself. You seek reassurance. None of that is chosen. It is conditioning designed to return you to the system as quickly as possible. But failure is not asking you to recover. It is asking you to shed. From a deeper perspective, failure is not chaos. It is a sorting mechanism. It separates what is real in you from what was adaptive. The persona you built to survive early environments cannot carry you further. So life removes the reward structure that sustained it. The psyche does not evolve through comfort. It evolves through symbolic death, and failure is the modern form of that ritual. An ego that shatters under failure was always fragile. It depended on outcomes for coherence. An anti-fragile ego is built differently. It does not need success to stabilize itself. It uses disruption as feedback. Pressure does not threaten it, it sharpens it. This is where most people misunderstand strength. They think strength is confidence. Confidence is just untested belief. Strength is containment, the capacity to remain internally ordered while external structures collapse. Most people treat a collapse as a hole they need to climb out of. They spend their energy trying to return to the 0 point. This is a strategic error. The anti-fragile ego does not return to the center. It uses the momentum of the collapse to land in a new territory entirely. Think of it as the difference between a ball that bounces back to where it started and a projectile that uses the impact to shatter a barrier. When your career fails or your project vanishes, you are suddenly granted the most expensive commodity in the world: unallocated attention. For a brief window, the scripts that usually run your life are broken. The expectations people had of you are suspended because they are busy pitying you. This pity is a shield. Use it. While they expect you to be mourning, you should be auditing. Ask, which of my strengths were actually just crutches? Which of my values were actually just fears in disguise? The architecture of your next phase shouldn't be a repair of the old. It should be a structure built from the rubble that proved it could survive the heat. Watch the difference. A reactive ego meets failure and immediately asks, how do I fix this so I can feel whole again? An antifragile ego asks something colder. What is being stripped from me right now? The first wants relief. The second wants accuracy. Accuracy is power. Failure exposes the shadow, not in theory, but in sensation. Envy toward those still succeeding, resentment toward systems you once defended, contempt for people who never questioned the game. Most people repress this. They call it negativity, but what you repress controls you. The anti-fragile ego does not moralize its shadow. It studies it, because shadow is stored energy. Unintegrated, it leaks out as sabotage. Integrated, it becomes leverage. Here is the Machiavellian truth no one teaches openly. Power does not come from winning. It comes from being unafraid of losing. When failure no longer destabilizes you, you become unpredictable. You stop chasing approval. You stop over-signaling intentions. You stop negotiating from fear. That shifts every interaction. People sense it before they can articulate it. There is a specific type of authority that only belongs to the person who has lost everything and realized they are still standing. This is the sovereignty of the unshakable. Before failure, your confidence is borrowed. It is a loan from your bank account, your title, or your social circle. This is fragile. It can be revoked at any time. But after the collapse, after you have sat in the quiet of a ruined plan and realized that your consciousness, your will, and your capacity to observe remain intact, you no longer owe the world anything. You have paid the tax of experience. You move with less hurry because you are no longer running away from the possibility of loss. Now, the practical axis. Watch the common reaction. Failure happens. The reactive ego rushes to prove worth again. More effort. More visibility. This restores comfort, but drains authority. The anti-fragile stance is the opposite. It withdraws, not out of defeat, but to let the false structures starve. Silence replaces justification. Observation replaces performance. The reactive ego interprets failure as a signal to correct behavior externally. Change the tactic, change the environment. The anti-fragile ego corrects identity. It asks, what version of me required this outcome to feel real? And then, it lets that version die. No ceremony, no announcement. Death is quiet. This is why some people emerge from failure colder, calmer, more precise. They did not bounce back. They reorganized. Their values became internal. Their standards stopped depending on recognition. Their time horizon extended. They no longer need to be right today. They are building position. Techniques fail if identity remains intact. You can optimize habits endlessly, but if your ego still requires validation, you will self-sabotage when success threatens exposure. The anti-fragile ego owns its darkness, not as an aesthetic, but as a responsibility. Individuation is not self-improvement. It is self-ownership. It means you stop outsourcing meaning to outcomes. You stop asking life to confirm you. Failure becomes information, not a verdict. Now, the challenge. For the next 7 days, do not explain a single failure. Not internally, not externally. No justifications, no stories. When something goes wrong, record only facts. What happened? What you felt? What impulse arose? Contain it. You are training the muscle that turns disruption into signal. And one vow: do not seek reassurance from anyone who benefits from you remaining the same. That includes old identities, old alliances, old self-images. Let the silence work. This transmission is not here to help you feel better. It exists for those who recognize that collapse is not an accident. If this sharpened you, rather than comforted you, you already know what alignment looks like. Stay if you are becoming harder to manipulate. Leave if you are still trying to be saved. Failure has already chosen you. The only question left is whether you will use it.